Thorne had $43.17 in his bank account, a 7-year-old son who believed he was a superhero, and exactly 3 seconds to decide if a stranger's life was worth risking his own. The answer, as it turned out, was never really a question. The rain came down in sheets that October night, the kind of rain that turned the streets of downtown Chicago into rivers of reflected neon. Callum stood beneath the narrow awning of the Sterling parking structure, watching the storm roll in from Lake Michigan, feeling the cold seep through his security uniform. A uniform worn at the elbows, the name tag scratched and faded from years of thankless work. At 34 years old, he had been on shift for 6 hours. His feet ached in boots that needed replacing 3 months ago. And somewhere across the city, his 7-year-old son Theo was curled up on a neighbor's couch, fast asleep, clutching his favorite book, Where the Wild Things Are. Callum checked his phone. A photo from Mrs. Rosalind Pemberton, the 72-year-old widow who watched Theo during his night shifts. In the picture, Theo's small face was peaceful, one hand still gripping the worn pages. Something tightened in Callum's chest, that familiar mixture of love and guilt. Love, because that little boy was his entire world. Guilt, because he wished he could be there to tuck Theo in every night instead of working until 2 in the morning just to keep their heads above water. 3 years since Miranda left, she had decided that motherhood and marriage weren't what she wanted after all. The divorce papers came by mail. The child support checks never did. So he worked, construction from 6 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Then 2 precious hours with Theo, helping with homework, making dinner, listening to stories about school. Then Mrs. Pemberton would arrive and Callum would head to his second job until the early morning hours. His father's voice echoed in his memory, words spoken when Callum was just a kid. You measure a man not by what he has, but by what he does when someone needs help. You always step up, Callum, even when it costs you. His father had died at 49. Heart attack, worn out from too much work. Callum had sworn he wouldn't end up the same way. But here he was, running the same race. Across the street, the Monarch Grand Hotel rose like a monument to everything Callum would never have. Glass and steel glowing with golden light. Valets in burgundy uniforms, opening doors for guests in designer clothes and diamonds. A universe away, though only a street separated them. That's when he saw the black Escalade. It came from the south, moving too fast. Its headlights cut through the rain as it barreled toward the intersection, then jerked to a stop directly in front of the hotel entrance. Something felt wrong, urgent, aggressive. The SUV sat there, engine running, black Escalade, windows heavily tinted, no front license plate. The hotel's glass doors opened, and a woman emerged. Even through the rain, she was striking. Crimson coat vivid against the gray night, dark hair pulled back, walking with the confidence of someone who never doubted her place in the world. Then everything went wrong. The rear doors of the Escalade flew open. 2 figures burst out in black tactical clothing and ski masks. Before anyone could react, they grabbed her. The woman cried out, a sharp sound of shock and terror that cut through the night like broken glass. They began dragging her toward the SUV. 3 seconds. That's all Callum had. His rational brain screamed at him. You're unarmed. You have a son who needs you. Call 911. But his father's voice was louder. Step up. Callum ran, boots pounding wet pavement, rain hammering his face, heart exploding in his chest. The valet had stumbled backward, frozen. Inside the hotel, faces appeared at the glass doors. But no one was running. No one was helping. Only Callum. He slammed into the first kidnapper with his full body weight, a textbook tackle. They went down hard, the man's weapon skittering across the sidewalk. The woman fought back, elbowing the second attacker in the throat. He loosened his grip, and she tore free. But the first kidnapper was trained. He bucked upward, threw Callum off balance, and pulled a knife. Should have minded your own business. He lunged. Callum threw up his arm. White-hot fire opened across his forearm as the blade sliced through. Blood bloomed instantly, mixing with rain. But Callum didn't retreat. He stepped into the attack, grabbed the man's wrist, twisted hard. His other fist caught the kidnapper in the solar plexus. The knife fell. Callum shoved him into the Escalade hard enough to dent the door. The second kidnapper rushed him. They grappled, spinning in a violent dance on the wet sidewalk. Callum's back hit a parking meter, pain shooting up his spine. But he used the leverage to drive his knee into the man's midsection. Once, twice, 3 times. Sirens, distant but growing closer. The SUV's horn blared 3 times. Abort signal. Both kidnappers scrambled for the vehicle. The Escalade's tires screamed as it disappeared into the night. Then silence. Just the rain and the approaching sirens. Callum stood shaking, arm throbbing, blood soaking through his sleeve. The woman was pressed against the hotel wall, crimson coat soaked, dark hair in wet tangles. Her legs gave out. He caught her before she hit the pavement, one hand cradling her head, the other supporting her weight. "You're okay," he murmured. "You're safe now. I've got you." She gripped his jacket with trembling fingers, her face pressed against his chest. Then the chaos arrived. Police, paramedics, hotel staff, cameras. The woman was pulled from his arms. She looked back at him, mouthed something that might have been, "Thank you," and then the ambulance doors closed. "That woman you saved," the paramedic said, cleaning Callum's wound. "Do you know who she is?" "No idea." "Evangeline Prescott, CEO of Prescott Global Holdings, worth about $2 billion. Callum stared. $2 billion. He looked at his torn uniform, his $43. 2 different worlds, violently collided. By midnight, his face was on every news channel. Hero security guard saves billionaire CEO. His phone exploded with notifications, and buried among them, a text from an unknown number. "You should have minded your own business, Mr. Thorne. Now you're involved." Morning came too early. Callum found Theo at the kitchen table in dinosaur pajamas, watching the news coverage. "Dad, you're on TV. They're calling you a hero." "I just helped someone, buddy." Theo studied him with 2 serious eyes. "Grandpa used to say heroes aren't people who aren't scared. Heroes are people who are scared but help anyway." He paused. "Were you scared?" "Yeah, buddy, I was scared." "But you helped anyway." "Yeah," Theo nodded. "Then you're a hero. That's just math." The hospital's private wing was nothing like any medical facility Callum had seen. Thick carpet, artwork on walls. He felt out of place in worn jeans and flannel. Evangeline Prescott sat by the window in a silk robe, a small bandage on her temple. She stood when he entered. "Mr. Thorne, thank you for coming. How are you feeling?" "Better than I have any right to feel. Thanks to you." They sat across from each other. She studied him with those dark, intelligent eyes. "You ran toward danger, put yourself between me and those men, got hurt protecting me." Her gaze dropped to his bandage arm. 15 stitches because of me. "I have a son," Callum said. "He's 7, and I thought, what if someone grabbed him? I'd want someone to step up, so I did." Something shifted in her expression. "What's his name?" "Theo." "Does he know?" "Not really. He's just a kid. He doesn't need to know how scary the world can be." Evangeline walked to the window. "I've lived in this city my entire life. Built my company after my father died. Worked 18-hour days. I believed I was untouchable." She turned. "Last night, I learned how wrong I was." She sat back down. "I've looked into your situation. Single father, 2 jobs, behind on bills, still paying medical debt from Theo's pneumonia last winter." Callum felt anger flash. "You had no right." "You're right, I didn't. but I needed to understand who saved me. She leaned forward. I want to offer you a job. Not security, not charity. I'm starting a public safety foundation, funding community protection programs, training neighborhood watch volunteers. I need someone to run it who understands what protecting people actually means. Why me? I don't have experience running anything. That's exactly why. Character can't be taught. Everything else can be learned. She handed him a folder. $150,000 a year. Benefits, health insurance for you and Theo. Everything you need to actually have a life instead of just surviving. Callum stared at the number, more than both his jobs combined. This isn't charity, she said. This is me recognizing character when I see it. He thought of Theo, of his father, dead at 49 from exhaustion. Okay, he said, I'll do it. The first weeks were overwhelming. Prescott Global Holdings headquarters. 40 stories of glass and steel. His office overlooked the entire city. Department heads questioned his qualifications. But Callum spoke from the heart at his first meeting. I know what it's like to live in neighborhoods where people are scared to let their kids play outside. I'm not asking you to believe in me yet. I'm asking you to give me the chance to earn it. Slowly, the skepticism faded. Morning coffee with Evangeline became ritual. Professional boundaries blurred into friendship. She shared her loneliness at the top. He shared his fears of inadequacy. One evening, Evangeline came to Callum's apartment to review grant applications. Theo studied her from the doorway. Are you my dad's boss? I suppose I am. He smiles more since he started working for you. He used to look tired all the time. Now he looks hopeful. Evangeline glanced at Callum, something soft in her expression. Theo continued. My grandpa used to say some people are like puzzle pieces. They look broken by themselves, but when they find the right match, they make something whole. He looked between them. Maybe you're each other's puzzle piece. Neither adult could speak. It was a Tuesday night when everything shattered again. Theo was asleep. Callum sat reviewing proposals when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo. Theo walking out of school, backpack bouncing, completely unaware he was being photographed. We know where you live. We know where your son goes to school. Stay out of what doesn't concern you. Callum's blood turned to ice. Within an hour, he and a sleepy Theo were in the back of a black SUV, heading to a secure estate outside the city. Dad, what's happening? We're going on an adventure. Ms. Prescott has a cool house, big yard, maybe ducks. Ducks? Maybe. In the apartment lobby, Mrs. Pemberton grabbed Garrett Callahan's arm. You take care of my boys, or you'll answer to me. Yes, ma'am. In the car, Theo asked quietly, Are bad guys coming after us because you helped that lady? Callum's heart broke. Yeah, buddy, I think they are. Do you wish you hadn't helped her? Long pause. No, because that's who I am. That's who I'm teaching you to be. We help people, even when it's hard. Theo nodded. Then I'm glad you helped her too. 3 days later, the phone call came. FBI caught a break, Garrett said. One kidnapper's cooperating. They've identified the mastermind. Who? Her cousin, Damian Prescott, former business partner. She bought him out 5 years ago, fair market value. He lost everything in bad investments, orchestrated the kidnapping for ransom and revenge. That evening, Evangeline arrived at the cottage, exhausted. He was at my birthday party last month, she said, voice hollow. Held my hand at my father's funeral. Told me how proud Dad would be. I'm sorry. He threatened your son. Sent that photo of Theo. Her voice cracked. I will never forgive him. Neither will I. They sat in silence as the sun set. I've made arrangements, she said finally. Damian will be arrested at the shareholders' meeting, in front of everyone. He wanted to destroy me publicly. He'll be destroyed publicly. That's not revenge. That's justice. The shareholders' meeting filled the 40th floor boardroom. Hundreds of people, board members, investors, press. Evangeline took the podium. Before we begin, I need to address what happened 2 weeks ago. On screen, news footage appeared. Callum tackling the kidnapper. My cousin, Damian Prescott, orchestrated my kidnapping. He hired those men. He intended to demand $50 million while destroying my reputation. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Damian stood abruptly. That's a lie. But his plan failed, Evangeline continued, because a man I'd never met risked his life to save mine. The screen changed. Security footage, Damian's own voice, recorded without his knowledge. You took everything from me. I was desperate. FBI agents moved through the crowd. Damian Prescott, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping, extortion, and terroristic threats. They handcuffed him in front of hundreds of people, cameras flashing. You wanted to take everything from me, Evangeline said. Instead, you've lost everything yourself. That's justice. Garrett appeared at Callum's shoulder as they led Damian away. Not bad, he said quietly. For a parking lot security guard. Takes one to know one. Your father raised a good man, Thorne. 3 months later, the foundation gala was held at the Monarch Grand Hotel. Callum stood near the entrance in a tuxedo. Beside him, Theo fidgeted in his small suit. This is boring, Dad. I know, but it's important. Will there be cake? Definitely. Patricia Ashworth caught his eye from across the ballroom and raised her champagne glass. A small salute from the woman who had guided him through those overwhelming first weeks. Evangeline took the stage. 3 months ago, a stranger risked his life to save mine. He didn't know who I was. He didn't want a reward. He just saw someone in trouble and ran toward danger instead of away. Her eyes found Callum. That man reminded me what real courage looks like. Tonight we honor Callum Thorne. But more than that, we celebrate what he represents. The truth that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Later in the hotel's quiet library, Evangeline found him alone. I need to tell you something, he said. I need to tell you something too. They both laughed nervously. I've been trying to figure out what we are, Callum said. You're my employer. You're from a different world. And I'm terrified I'm misreading everything. You're not misreading anything. But Theo comes first, always. I wouldn't want to be with someone who didn't put their child first. The library door burst open. Dad! Theo stood there, face flushed. Mrs. Pemberton says there's cake. Also, are you going to kiss her or what? It's getting weird. Evangeline laughed. Out of the mouths of babes. She took Callum's face in her hands and kissed him, gentle and sure. Theo covered his eyes but peeked through his fingers, grinning. Does this mean she's going to be part of our family? He asked. Evangeline looked at Callum. I think yes, Theo decided. She makes you happy, and she lets me feed the ducks. Those are good reasons. 1 year later, they returned to the Monarch Grand Hotel. Callum stood on the exact spot where he'd first seen the Escalade. Clear autumn evening, stars overhead. Theo vibrated with excitement beside him. Is it time yet? Almost. Evangeline appeared at the hotel entrance in a simple white dress. Behind her, Mrs. Pemberton dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. There's something I need to ask you, Callum said. Before he could kneel, Theo pulled a velvet box from his jacket. I helped pick it. It has 3 stones. One for you, one for Dad, one for me. Because we're a team. Evangeline laughed through tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Mrs. Pemberton stepped forward and pulled all 3 into a fierce hug. I've been waiting for this since the first time I saw how she looked at you. You knew, Callum asked. Sweetheart, I'm 72. I know everything. Later, walking home as a family, Theo looked up at the stars. Do you think Grandpa can see us? I think so, buddy. I think he'd like our family. I think he'd say you did good. Evangeline squeezed Callum's hand. You know what I keep thinking? That night in the rain, you had every reason to look away, but you didn't. She gestured at the three of them, a family forged from chaos. This happened because you didn't, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Callum looked at his son, then at the woman who would be his wife. Thought about his father, about $43, about running toward danger. My dad used to say you measure a man by what he does when someone needs help, he said quietly. I spent years thinking I didn't measure up. Not enough money, not enough success. He pulled them closer. But he wasn't talking about money. He was talking about showing up, about being there when it matters. Theo yawned. Dad, this is very touching, but I'm tired and also hungry. Evangeline laughed. Some things never change. Some things do, Callum said. And sometimes the changes are better than anything you could have imagined. They walked on together. A security guard who became a hero, a CEO who learned what really mattered, and a 7-year-old boy wise enough to see the puzzle pieces before anyone else. Behind them, the city glittered with possibilities, ahead a future they would build together. Callum Thorne had spent years believing he wasn't enough, but on a rainy October night, he discovered that enough has nothing to do with bank accounts. It's about showing up when it matters, running toward danger instead of away, choosing courage even when you're terrified. He'd saved a stranger's life, and in doing so, he'd found his own. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting, it's believing you deserve the happiness that comes after. Callum believed it now, and he was never going back.